All right, thank you. So now, business acumen within the context of the APC. So we've spoken about it in high level in terms of what is the general expectation. But now one will say, now, Rendani, you said you're going to give me feedback and say whether I'm demonstrating business acumen or not. So what will you need me to do for you to give me feedback that I'm on track with business acumen? What will you be meaning when you say to me, your business acumen is not there? These are the things I'll be talking about. So let's go through them. 1, avoid any of my marking team to tell you that you're presenting generic answers. Like, avoid that as a plague. Don't desire that in your script. So don't ever be generic. When now you are talking about things because they exist and they are not properly contextualized to the case study. So here, one of the things that we are looking for, we are not looking for your ability to apply the models, but we are looking for your ability to apply them and use it in a way that is meaningful to the problem at hand. The problem at hand can be very dynamic. But at the end of the day, I want you to always challenge yourself and say, this thing that I'm saying here, where did I get it? And the reason I say this is because there was an instance where some candidates were talking to my colleague, and it was an accounting task. And they were saying that, but you said it's a good idea to go out there and then bring your points here. And I was like, yeah, we did say that. But what was the point? The point that I said was management should consider what Transnet is doing there in Cape Town, because Transnet is now fixing the ports and all these things. So that will be something that can help in this decision. I was like, why are you telling this about, why are you telling the board about this? Like if I read this, what am I supposed to do with it? So it is not a matter of bringing external realities into your responses. Think about context. Then one, it was an accounting task. Then we were talking about accounting policy. Then the candidate then said, we need to evaluate companies like NASPAS and Take a Lot, and just to see how they account for their intangible assets. And NASPAS account for their intangible assets using this particular model. I was like, I hear you. So should I now change my accounting model because NASPAS do it? Should I now change my useful life because Take a Lot do it? So you always have to give me a why. I mean, even in a personal life, it is not a situation where now your spouse will say, look at other men, what they're doing, and that is supposed to be a varying point. It has to be within context. Let's talk about me kind of situation. So, bad example. I take it back. But now what I'm talking about is context. Think about VLA. Think about what they are facing. You might read about their competitors and there might be some insights, but how are those insights linked to VLA? Do you get that? So don't ever lose that insight. And the others will be someone who comes and say, since we are looking to buy, we need to consider the financial capital needs. And the problem is this might require debt, and debt is expensive. But I then go and say, but did you notice that VLA doesn't have a lot of debt in relation to its book value of equity? Its book value of equity is about 137 million, and its liability is about 20. So when you say debt is difficult to raise, what do you mean? What makes you believe that they cannot push this debt here to this particular level? But now, if you do research and you find that, oh, its competitors have got what? Have got debt to equity ratio on book value of 40%, then an insightful point could be, based on my research, competitors to VLA have got a 40% debt ratio. If this is applicable to VLA, or if this represents how the markets look at it, then there is an opportunity for VLA to raise up to 50 million based on its book value of equity. And given that it's got 26 million on its SFP, then it can raise another approximately 24 million. Now I'm saying that's a brilliant point, because now you've told the board that you have not made the board sound like they are not at work or they've been foolish, but you have now painted a picture to them that this seems to be a market trend. I didn't see it on one market competitor, and this is what it means. So when thinking about debt, there is scope to raise debt before you go to equity. So as someone who is in the board, I can appreciate that. You are in context, because you even told me about the debt that we have. Then the next one, it is what? It is around the quality of the responses. The reason why you need to get your business acumen right is because your answers tend to be richer. Like it's not just a matter of, let me go back to CTA. Whenever there's an investment decision, I need to think about finance. I need to think about this. I need to think about this. No, now your answers are now saying, I'm thinking about that, but I need to contextualize it, unpack it to the board, and give them the meat that they will need in finalizing this particular decision. So when you find yourself being too generic, then stop it and say, but hold on. What am I looking to do here? What will be useful for the board? I can't give textbook answers to the board. I should rather give them my textbook. They will do it, the work themselves, if I'm going to be that CA. But it always has to be use what we are talking about to enhance your response. Then the next is, be clear that we are not here to assess your research skill. This is not a master's program. This is a professional course. So professional, it means that these skills need to be transferable to your day-to-day, not at the end of the program, but as the program progresses. You are not supposed to wait and say, I now have a research certificate, I now have a master's program, I now have the APC certificate, but it should be a transformative process to say that I am not just summarizing the PRI, I am not just researching issues in the PRI, but I am analyzing them. Critical thinking is very important, and that's what now comes in, which I said earlier, to say critical thinking go in hand with business acumen. You need to see these things and you need to question them first before you can, because otherwise, if you are able to summarize the case study for me and put it against the Pestel, put it against the Porters, put it against the Six Capital, that's good. But it will not translate to business acumen unless you then have that inquisitive mind to add the third column and tell me, So what? How does this political factor now help here? What could be a political factor that you needed to be mindful of in what? In the GN, in what? In South Africa. In the South African context, we just established something that we call a GNU. The market sentiments is that it is producing results, it has increased confidence. So for VLA, if now they tell me they have increased confidence in South Africa and that the government will come through with the construction project, I believe. I believe because there is context to it. I believe because I had to question, where is that insight? Where is that belief from the government coming from? And in this particular task I gave you, the CFO said, I believe now the legal issues are behind us. And I was like, but CFO, where's the evidence? Are you going to go to the board and say, let's buy equipment tomorrow because these issues are behind us? What if these things never get resolved in a timely manner? So that is something that you could have then critically challenged from the CFO, because in the context of buying and these aspects, I needed to challenge the CFO and have view of where is this coming from? What makes you believe? Because I know South Africa cases take time. So which facts is you going to bring to the board to say that these issues are behind us? Do you see that? You are now bringing your critical thinking, because before we make that decision, that could be costly. We need to have questioned the facts that were given to us. Do you see that? Are we clear when I say this is how you are showing up for business acumen? Keep this slide, remember this slide, because every time we give you the feedback that your business acumen is on point, then tick that, yeah, it's because I was in context. Tick because my responses were not just CTA, IAC responses, they were thorough and they were contextualized. I didn't just research, but I researched in a structured manner, and I was asking questions to help me better be prepared. And critical thinking, I was not just taking the facts that were given, whereas they can affect the eventual outcome in this decision without thinking in detail. Is that HC? What is the number? Helen, you're number 1 on my screen.
Thank you, Rendani. Actually, Agnes, as I was reading your comment, I'm thinking to myself, because I was going into the, but Rendani, just to take you back a little bit on the example that you've given regarding VLA.
Yes.
Looking at their balance sheet, looking at their, is it the debt equity ratio?
Yes.
I just want to understand something, because I think this HC it's really giving me a hard time in terms of
you want it.
Yes, but
sure. I love that spirit. Yes.
Yeah, but I'm thinking to myself, like, in responding, like, just analyzing the company. I think I looked at like the capital structure and thought to myself, okay, looking at their cash and cash equivalents, and thought to myself, okay, the company, without specifying like which source of capital, they may need to raise to finance like those capital outlay. I thought to myself, the company will need to raise capital. And then I looked at that equity, so they've got low equity and it's a private listed company. I thought to myself, you know what, because of time,
yes,
I don't have time to be like comparing with what's actually happening in the market. And I just want to find out, should I go further? In terms of that, will that be lending me into the HC? Like,
so without going outside, the quality of such an analysis can land you there. And where now it will not necessarily be enough to tell me that it's a private company. I'll want you to think about the shareholder profile, because sometimes it's a private company, but there's a PE company there. There's a bank that is there. So sometimes they've got deep pockets. So that means, yes, it's a private company, but the money that they have and access to capital could be quite different to even a listed company. So for me, the way you unpack it could get you there. So does that make sense?
Yeah, but it's very, there's a thin line, like.
Yes. So for me, it will be a matter of, now the candidates, this is a private company and capital is difficult to raise in a private company. It's still an ITC, IAC, CTA response. Now make it an APC response. That's what I'll then be asking. Sure. Monica, please.
Thanks, Rendani.
Yes.
My question is regarding on how we respond to the task. Do we respond in layman terms, or if we use the accounting language is too okay? For instance, if when you are talking about, we indicate the gearing of the company.
Yeah.
Is it okay to state it that way, or maybe the other person will be on the board will not understand it? I just want to hear it from your end.
Yeah.
What
So
do you
for
think?
me, for me, there are some technical terms and there are some fair terms. Gearing, I'll expect most of the board members to have done an MBA, for instance, economics degree, BCom degree. So gearing, I'm assuming that they've had it sometime. So I'll not expect you to have been going overboard, technically speaking. So yes, there is a fine line, but things like gearing for me is not there. So I think after I've went through the communication workshop later on in the program, we can always come back and further refine this and engage further on it. But always be mindful of the audience and the kind of term that you're introducing them to it. Makes sense?
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Linda, your last question for the day. Sure.
Thanks, Rendani. So I just get the, I think I've got the understanding of what we should be doing. You get that PRI,
Yes.
you analyze it.
Yes.
You know what is happening about the company, including your financial analysis.
Yes.
Because when it comes to these issues,
Yes.
although it's a private company,
Yes.
but if it's got muscles to raise funding,
Yes.
that you can even name it as a pro, or an advantage. And then another thing is just for us not to shoot in the air, irrelevancy there, that we must bring what is relevant in the context of what is required. So critical thinking, it gives me a sense that you must not be a horsepie. You must filter things through and then question things, exercise professional skepticism. And then now you are about basically, when you do that, you demonstrate that you're not just a bicycle. You know, a bicycle cannot stand on its own. It leans on something. And
Sure.
you are basically have what it takes to be that candidate.
Sure. Yeah, it's exactly that.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's exactly that. Don't be a bicycle. I'll use that. But yeah, this is me. This is what I had in store for you today. Critical thinking, I'm not going to go into detail. You'll see that that's the next session in a timetable. So I'll leave Dr. Pullen to unpack that. But I hope you are now at a point where now you're saying, oh, I hear you when you give me that feedback. This is what you want from me. That was my objective. That was my plan for today. And we are at the end of that plan. Are we good?
Yes, what is the expectation? Oh, sorry, I think there's a hand. Sorry about that. Just the
Why are
expectation.
they end at 1 o'clock? No, I committed to finish at 1. Why are the hands at 1 o'clock?
I know, but this one you promised. You promised. What is our expectation in terms of getting a random request like during the week?
What are
and
random requests? Let's talk about that.
there was that email, Rendani, you sent,
Which one?
which the one that you sent, we must do this task and blah, blah, blah. That email, yes, we must watch the video and so forth. Like, for instance, myself,
Yeah.
I had